Hello, I am Jameson and welcome to my channel. In this series, I am logging my weekly training as I progress from being at one of my lifetime lows all the way to completing a full Ironman triathlon. Like forging a weapon, you start with raw material. You process it through fire and work away the slag. You quench it with water to lock in its strength. And then you sharpen and fine-tune it to bring it to its peak optimal performance. In this case, I am the raw material. So please show your support as I go through the process to forge an Ironman.
Hey everyone, so that's one more week down. This week's totals are 33 miles running and 5 hours cycling. I also started lifting a little bit with my new bumper plates. This week I only did 2 sessions of lifting. I actually skipped out on my last lifting session because my resting heart rate was still a little bit too elevated, and I could really feel my body just being kind of exhausted. Speaking of heart rate, I actually finally got a heart rate monitor along with a lot of other items. On my first session of the week, I actually was riding a little bit too hard, and I could feel it the next day that my body was just kind of lagging quite a bit. So for the next day or two, I just made sure to go really slowly on both my running and my cycling. And on the last day, that's when I finally got my heart rate monitor. I put it on for my run after I did my cycling, and once again my heart rate was still a little bit too elevated for zone 2 training, averaging around 145 BPM, where my goal for zone 2 would be about 125 to 130. So even though my run was still pretty slow, so that elevation of heart rate actually tells me that I again sort of overtrained a little bit. My legs were also feeling really clunky, and even though I was running pretty slowly, I was still sort of in that zone 3. However, now that I have my heart rate monitor, for the next bit of my base phase training, I'll be able to keep a lot better track of my training efforts. This way I can actually target right into that little sweet spot and stay right in zone 2. So we've made it into 2024, and so far since I started this journey, it's been about 4 months and I've lost about 30 pounds. I'm currently sitting around 180-ish. Since I started lifting, my body's response adaptation has been to sort of grow muscle a little bit. I also have some muscle memory along with being mesomorphic body type, which causes me to be able to put on muscle a little bit more than others. So because of this, my body mass index is sort of changing a little bit, and that's kind of why I've been sitting about 180. I may actually still be losing some fat, but while gaining a little bit of muscle. And while muscle gain is not really the target for doing triathlons, it still has some really good benefits. The main goal that I'm after with lifting is to be able to produce a lot more force on the bike. By increasing my strength with heavy weight, low repetitions, theoretically I'll be able to greatly increase my FTP, my functional threshold power. Even though I don't have the equipment yet to measure FTP, that's not going to stop me from using what I already have to increase that FTP. I have to admit that I'm not really a huge fan of doing a whole bunch of crazy circuit work like I used to do. Having had a little bit of previous knowledge on lifting, I've actually learned that a lot of these compound lifts create a lot of strength throughout the entire kinetic chain of your body, especially in the core. So while I am targeting my legs primarily, there's also significant strength gain throughout the entire core. The lats, the traps, the rectus abdominis. All in all, what I consider strength training is actually strength training. I think a lot of people tend to get confused when it comes to strength training, when it comes to just doing some simple body weight circuits versus doing actual heavy lifting. While there are a lot of benefits to circuit HIIT training, I consider that to be a lot more VO2 max training. It's all about how you perform it. But yes, so starting my journey and spending 4 months at it so far, while also sharing it with you, is a big milestone for me. Before I started this, it had been 2 years of me staying at home as a caretaker for my mother. She has dementia and some walking problems, and is doing some basic everyday things is increasingly becoming a bit more challenging for her. As a younger person, being put in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own goals and needs and desires, whether it be travel, going out to make money, developing new skills, the potential of having a social life, giving up a lot of those things just to stay home to take care of someone who is unable to help themselves can put immense psychological stress on a person. Not to mention that at the start of it, I was already at a very low point in my life. And then when I fell into this situation, I went way down. I pretty much just gave up. For a long time, I just felt completely defeated. As a person, as a human being, I felt taken advantage of for other people not stepping in to help out as much. Anger, a lot of resentment, depression, you name it. Not to mention the financial hole that I was already in, going even deeper, still going down financially. I spent a lot of time just playing video game on my computer, and I also started to take advantage of my time to actually start learning game development as a new skill to have whenever I emerge out of this situation. But the lifestyle of just being a homebody and not really doing much of any physical activity was really destroying me. I'd gained a lot of weight, I was very tired, very lethargic all the time, and even though I wasn't doing anything physical, I got to the point where I couldn't even work at learning game development anymore because I would just be sitting at my computer and feel like I was completely exhausted. It's almost as though I was shutting down. My brain just couldn't think that much anymore. I sat and wasted many months of my life like this. But eventually, once you've been all the way at the bottom for so long, something starts to happen and you start to rise up again. My aunt helped me out by getting in contact with a Seniors Helping Seniors agency. A few times a week, a person comes over and basically assists my mother so that I can go out and do a few things in the day. While it's not enough time for me to really go out and work at a job, it's enough to get me out of the house and start to come back to life. I started to get a little bit of inspiration again. I started to think about the things that I used to really enjoy doing. On Facebook, I always see photos and videos of people I used to know out living their lives, enjoying and doing different things. And when I saw a picture of an old teammate who had completed a 70.3 Ironman, that's when I decided this is what I'm going to do. And that's when I started this journey 4 months ago. People will want to share good memories, but they will never want to share in the burden. Only cheap gestures, like Cain's offering. So moving forward, while I have the Ironman that I'm training for, which won't be until November, I decided that it'd be a good idea in preparation that I go and do some shorter triathlons before I get to that point. The training schedule that I have laid out currently is targeting a sprint triathlon in May. 400 meter open water swim, 11 miles on the bike, and a 5K run. I have a lot to do to get ready for it, but I'm excited about the entire process. But just a couple of days ago, something really interesting happened. My old cross-country and track coach contacted me. The track team is in need of a distance coach, and by making a few schedule adjustments for the agency to help out with my mother, I'll be able to go for a few hours a day to go be a track coach at my old high school. This is all happening very fast. In order to do this, I do have some hoops that I have to jump through, but once I'm committed into doing this, my life might start to feel like I'm going from 0 to 60 really fast. So I'm starting to get a lot more on my mind and a lot more things to sort of start building up and planning. When I was in high school, getting into cross country and track really changed my life at that point. It changed my attitude about being at school altogether. And just like those who came before me, I hope that I'll be able to make as good as an example to help inspire a new generation of athletes and to propel them along their way in life.